Hey everyone, and welcome to Top Think. Today we're going to learn about how to spot a liar immediately. Now, let's begin. Number 1. One question, 3 ways. If you want to know if someone is lying, just try asking the same question in 3 different ways. This technique is designed to uncover patterns in the way people lie. Now, most of the time when someone makes something up, they've got their lie planned out. They know what words they're going to say. They know what details they're going to mention. So when you ask the question once, they'll have a well-planned answer ready and waiting. But what happens when you ask it again in a different way? If they were telling the truth, they might include some new details or tell the story differently. But if they're lying, they only planned one answer, so they're going to stick to the script. They'll rehash the same details or even use the same phrases as before. And when you ask a third time, it gets even more obvious. They'll keep repeating the same words, details, and content because they already spilled everything the first time around. So if you want to catch a liar in the act, rephrase the same question and see how many different answers they can give. Number 2. Stories in reverse. True statements are almost always easier to explain, even if you have to explain them in reverse. Most of the time, when you tell a story backwards, you actually uncover new information. You stumble upon details that you missed. But what if you're not telling the truth? According to the journal Law and Human Behavior, you can discover if someone is lying by asking them to tell their story backwards. Now, unlike true statements, lies are a lot more difficult in reverse. It's hard enough to imagine a detailed lie, but telling it backwards increases your cognitive load exponentially. Why is that? Well, because you practiced telling your story a certain way. You spent all this time memorizing how things played out in order, but when you flip it around, you suddenly feel lost. You start talking slower, you make more errors, and you leave out important details. Even if the content is the same, flipping their story around can help you spot any liar right away. Number 3. The answer delay. Normally, when someone asks you a question, you pause. You take a second to think about your answer, because you weren't expecting to hear that question. It was spontaneous, so you need that slight delay to think about what you're going to say next. But liars often jump the gun. They already have something prepared, so they're feeling antsy to get that lie out of their brains and into the world. Whenever you think someone is lying, look for that little pause. If they miss it, if they answer right away, there's a good chance they planned their answer from the start. Number 4. Hold your evidence. If you're suspicious of someone, direct confrontation is one of the worst ways to find out the truth, because it gives your whole plan away. If you show them all your cards, all they have to do is say yes or no. Instead, try holding on to your evidence as long as you can. According to the American Psychological Association, this technique is used by both law enforcement and professional investigators. Because some criminals are really experienced liars, they don't show the usual signs of bending the truth. They don't look stressed or make obvious mistakes. So, how do professionals figure them out? The simple answer is, they sit back and wait. They let liars sabotage themselves, but this strategy only works if you keep your evidence to yourself. Imagine someone's telling you about how they sprained their wrist, but you saw them using their wrist just fine this morning. How can you catch them in a lie? According to the Journal of Investigative Psychology and Offender Profiling, you can start by asking continuous questions. No matter what they say, just assume they're telling the truth for now. Eventually, if you keep asking for more and more, they're going to run out of story, and they're going to start contradicting themselves. Maybe they mention how they can't pick anything up with their hand, but you saw them do exactly that. So now's the perfect time to break out your evidence. As soon as you flip the switch, most liars are going to panic. They'll start messing up, they'll show signs of stress, and their cool facade will come crumbling down. Number 5. A partner in crime. If you're worried someone is lying to you, get someone else involved. Try bringing one extra person with you, because you can learn a lot about someone's integrity by watching how they react to other people. If they're telling the truth, one extra person shouldn't change anything. Say your roommate is making food in the kitchen. Under normal circumstances, your roommate would just fade into the background. But if someone is lying, they'll get nervous. They'll feel more pressure, like they're being watched by another pair of eyes. You might notice them glancing over at your roommate or suddenly switching personalities when your roommate walks in. If you notice any of these changes, there's a good chance you're being lied to. Number 6. Expect the unexpected. Sometimes the only way to spot a liar is to throw them a curveball. In the middle of their story, ask them a random question, something they weren't expecting, and see how they react. According to a 2011 essay in the Journal of Applied Cognitive Psychology, unexpected questions can throw them off their game. It forces them to improvise, to make up something they didn't have planned, and as soon as that plan falls apart, you'll notice more and more mistakes. Number 7. Synchronized Behavior. You can tell if someone's lying by watching how they interact with their own friends. A 2012 study published in the Journal of the Human Factors and Ergonomics Society found that social behaviors change when you're lying. A truth teller, for example, tends to fall in sync with the people around them. They're more willing to make eye contact, to laugh, and mirror the body language of their friends or partner. But someone who's lying is much more independent. Even if everyone else is relaxed, their body language stays rigid and unnatural. Their hands sit right out in front of them, their backs stay straight, and they avoid eye contact at all costs. If you think someone's lying, pay attention to the way they socialize with people they know. If it looks like they're out of sync, they might be lying. Number 8. Analyze the details. Liars usually avoid specific details when they're telling stories, but occasionally they'll let one slide through, and when that happens, there's an easy way to tell if they're lying to you. Okay, let's say you're meeting someone for dinner. They tell you this whole story about their fancy job, but you think they're lying. They keep dancing around the point. They're giving you a bunch of vague answers, so you decide to hone in on something specific. You ask them where their office building is, and they say something general like, "Oh, it's downtown." But when you ask for specific details like cross streets, they don't know what to say. If they were telling the truth, this would be a weird but easy question. But since they're lying, they start floundering for an answer, or suddenly change the subject. Either way, it's safe to say you caught them red-handed. Number 9. Vocal changes. According to a 2012 study published in the journal Group Decision and Negotiation, lying has a huge impact on the way you speak. In fact, this study discovered around 150 potential indicators of deception. From those 150 indicators, researchers narrowed them down to 7 powerful constructs that people use when they're lying. We won't break down all 7 of them here. The first construct is called vocal diversity. When someone's telling you a story, ask yourself a simple question. How diverse is their language? Are they using a lot of similar words and phrases? They fall back on these patterns to lower the cognitive load, because lying takes a lot more brain power than most people think. The second construct, which is even easier to spot, is called vocal uncertainty. Why? Because uncertainty is a subtle way for you to distance yourself from your own lies. For the same reason, liars also avoid using first person. First person feels like you're taking ownership of your lies, so most people try to create as much wiggle room as they can. But how do these vocal cues translate into the real world? Another study published in 2015 in the Journal of Language and Social Psychology showed how these vocal indicators can catch a liar in action. In this study, researchers investigated fraudulent statements made by a series of executives. From these real recordings, researchers applied vocal constructs to figure out who was lying and who wasn't. It turns out these executives made a lot of the same vocal mistakes. They used vague words, simplified their language, and consistently avoided first-person statements. So if you notice someone making these same changes to their speech, you might have found yourself a liar. Hey, thank you for watching Top Think, and be sure to subscribe because more incredible content is on the way.